Good morning. Welcome to North Community Church. Whoever you are this morning on your life journey, wherever you are at this moment on your faith journey, we welcome you here today at North Community Church on this glorious Easter Sunday. Our second reading this morning is from the Gospel of Matthew. After the Sabbath, as the first day of the week was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, for the angel of the Lord descending from heaven came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance, it was like lightning, and his clothing was white as snow. For fear of him, the guards shook and became like dead men. But the angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid. I know that you're looking for Jesus who was crucified, but he's not here. He's been raised, as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples that he has been raised from the dead and indeed is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you'll see him. This is my message for you." So they left the tomb quickly with fear and awe and great joy, and they ran to tell his disciples. Suddenly, Jesus met them and said, "Greetings." They came to him and they took hold of his feet and they worshiped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee, and there they will see me." This week I saw a video on Facebook. How many of you are on Facebook? Yeah, you might have seen the same one. It's from a Thai life insurance company. And it starts off with this young man, obviously sort of working class, black pants and a white shirt with a black backpack. A relatively young man in sort of kind of a poor part of the city. He's what we think is he's walking to work. And as he comes around a corner, the rain spout is dripping and the water falls right on his head. And he sort of jumps back and shakes off his hair and looks up at the spout, and he looks down, and when he does, he notices that on the side of the road is a plant that's dead in a plastic bucket. And he looks at the plant and he looks at the rain spout and he just drags it over in front of the spout. And he walks on. And when he gets to the busy street, there's an old woman with a food cart trying to get it up over the curb, and the cart is big and she is small and she can't quite lift it, and he stops and he goes and he helps her pick it up and put it on the road. And the people around him all kind of shake their head. And he walks on to this little outdoor place where you can eat. You know, you buy food from the carts and you sit at these little tables, and he sits and we see that he has a plate of plain white rice and a little chicken leg, and he's about to eat, and a stray dog comes up and puts its paw on his knee. And he looks at the dog and he looks at his plate. And then he takes the chicken leg and he offers it to the dog. And you can see the cook on the cart shake his head. And as he walks on, he comes to a woman sitting on cardboard, a beggar. Ragged clothes, dirty face, with her face down, and an empty bowl in front of her. And sitting next to her is a little girl, a small little girl, also messy hair, and she too has a little empty can with a little sign in front that says, "For education." And he looks at the child. He reaches in his wallet, and when he opens it, there's just 2 single small bills. And he looks at them and he looks at the child, and he takes the 2 bills out and he puts them in the can, and the child and the mother bow. We see him go on and go back to his little apartment. It's pretty shabby looking, and as he walks to his door, he stops across the hallway and he puts a hand of bananas on a string around the doorknob and then goes in his door. And we see an old woman with white hair, small and bent, crack her door, see the bananas, and look around to see who left them. And then he's in his little room. It's not very big. He has a pallet on the floor, and he's kneeled on the pallet in prayer. The announcer comes on and talks about the man, about who he is. that he's really nobody important. He's never going to be famous. You're not ever going to see him on television. He doesn't have a lot of money or a powerful job. But we see him 3 times go through his life. The next morning or the next time we see him, he's up, and as he walks by the plant, it's still there under the rain spout. It has a few green leaves. As he gets to the corner, the old woman with the cart is waiting for him, and he's late. And he helps her get it up over the curb, and they smile. When he sits down to have his food, the dog comes up, and he has 2 chicken legs today. He walks by the woman on the cardboard and the child. And he opens his wallet. And we see that he must have gotten paid because he has 2 bills, but they're bigger bills now. And he looks at his wallet and he looks in the face of this child who can barely look at him. And he takes the larger and he puts it in the can. He puts the bananas on the doorknob. We see him in his own little balcony trying to grow fruits and vegetables that night, and he is in prayer. And then the next day, or the next time we see him, as he's walking down that street, there is that plant, and it's green and it's blooming. And he smiles. And the old woman waves to him as he comes, and they pick up the cart and move it, and she laughs and puts her hat on his head, and he kind of laughs too when they talk. And then when he gets to the cardboard with the woman, the child is not there. The child is not there. And you can see the fear in his face, and we all take a deep breath. The child is not there. And then we hear a little voice, a child's voice, call out, "Mama." And he turns and we turn and look, and here comes this little girl with a clean face and a barrette in her hair. She has on a school uniform and a backpack. And when she sees the man, she stops and she smiles. And so does he. When he starts home, the dog follows him home. And we see the 2 of them on the porch watering the plants. The dog brings him a watering can. And on the voiceover, we hear that this is not an important man, but it is a man who seeks beauty and happiness and is alive in the world around others. And then the last time we see it, we see him and the old woman at the cart. We see the flowers first. The flower is blooming and a butterfly is drinking from the nectar. And he's with the old woman at the cart. And in fact, the old woman is now giving food to someone who can't afford to pay. We see the child and the mother still sitting on the cardboard, but the child teaching the mother how to count. We see the old woman open the door before he can put the bananas on the doorknob and reach out and hug him. We see the man and the dog, his arm around the dog, the 2 of them sitting on the ground, looking at the bounty of their garden. Moments in our life make a huge difference. We don't know which ones they're going to be. We don't know which actions we're going to take. We just know that sometimes we show up and there is a moment that changes everything, that changes us, that changes someone else. We see a miracle because we are there for it and looking. We show up and the miracle is there. In our story this morning, we know what's already happened. We all know that Good Friday was just a few days away. We know that we were in misery. All of our hopes died on a cross. We know how horrible it was to watch him walk through the streets with the crowds cheering as he suffered. That we saw him bleeding and broken. We all know that when he took his last breath, the skies opened up and the earth shook. They say that Matthew says the graves opened up and we were terrified with everyone else. We all know that they took him down and put him in a stone cave and blocked it with a big stone because it was the Sabbath. And we went home desolate and afraid and heartbroken. And then sometime during that Sabbath time, Mary, or maybe it was the other Mary, one of them said, I'm going to the grave as soon as I can. And on that morning, as the dawn broke and the Sabbath was ended, they got up and went to the grave. Mary Magdalene, who we hear in all of the Gospels, who we know was the one who loved him, who stayed with him, the one he appears to first in all of the text. And that other Mary, we don't even know who she was, that other Mary. She was just another Mary. I mean, she could have been Mary, the mother of James. She could have been Mary, the mother of Zebedee. She could have been any other Mary, just the common Mary, just the others. Nobody rich, nobody famous, nobody you're going to see on TV, nobody important, nobody that gets upgraded as soon as they get to the airport, nobody who has tables reserved for them, just an other somebody. Just one of us. We are the other Mary. Just one of us. Just an ordinary somebody. And they go to the grave of someone they loved, someone they cared about and believed in. They just go out of respect and love to his grave. And when they get there, as they get there, an earthquake comes and the ground shakes again and they are terrified. There's nowhere to go when an earthquake comes. There's nowhere to hide because the very earth itself is shaking. And as that happens, they see lightning, a huge, bright, blinding light come down from the heavens, and it looks like a man, and he sits on top of this huge stone as it rolls away from the grave. And the guards, they drop their swords, and they are frozen, paralyzed with fear. And the angel says to the women, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. I can't imagine how terrifying angels must be, because that's what they always say. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. He isn't here. He's already risen, like he told you he would. Go ahead, look in the tomb. And they look in the tomb. Mary Magdalene and all of us, just the others, we look in the tomb and it's empty. It's empty. And this blinding light angel says, go ahead, go on and go tell the others. Go to Galilee and you'll see him. And unlike the guards, even though we might be afraid, we are also amazed and we can hardly wait to go. We head out onto the road immediately. We just rush to meet him. And it says, suddenly, Jesus appeared to them. Suddenly, as soon as they were on the road, headed in the direction, suddenly Jesus appears to them and says, greetings. Hola. And they fall down and they worship him. And he says, okay, go on the road and tell the others. And they do. And we do. Just the others, the every people, the every woman, the every man, we do. They get up and go. Now, they didn't expect a miracle, but they saw one. They saw an angel. They saw an empty tomb. They saw the risen Christ. Jesus didn't go and find them in their beds. They weren't, sleeping in for brunch. They weren't waiting. Jesus didn't come to them. They had to get up out of the bed to go and meet an angel. If you want to meet an angel, you can't stay asleep. You have to wake up. They went to the tomb, and sure enough, it was empty. And they did as the angel said, and that's when all of us others see Jesus. If we get up and go and start down the road, Jesus is right there suddenly, immediately to meet us. No matter how big or how small our lives are, no matter how rich or how poor we are, no matter how healthy or how sick we are, no matter how lonesome, no matter how overworked and overstressed, no matter how famous or no matter how ordinary, the resurrection has come. But we must go and meet it if we will grab hold of the miracle that is right in front of us all the time. See, resurrection isn't about reversal. It's not about going back to the life that they had before. It's about the present and the future. It's about coming to new life. Things don't go back the same. It is not the same Jesus. It is the risen Christ. Things don't go back. Now it's new life that's come. And so today on this Easter morning when we celebrate resurrection and new life, we have to ask ourselves, what are the moments this week when we saw a miracle, when we were changed, when we got up and went? And where do we need to get up and go in our lives? Where are we still in bed, missing the angel, missing the empty tomb, missing a miracle? A miracle of a bush that blooms. A miracle of making a friend of someone on the street. A miracle of a pet who will love you even though they know who you really are. The miracle of caring for a neighbor. The miracle of a child getting an education and having a barrette put in her hair. Those miracles are in your life, I promise you. All of us ordinary Mary people, those miracles are part of your life, part of the promise of resurrection for you. You can't wait for them to happen. You've got to get up and go and meet them. We have to seek them out and notice them. But I promise you, if you seek them this week, you will find them. It is the promise of resurrection that belongs to all of us. Suddenly, Jesus will come to you. Suddenly, on the road, Christ will be there. Look for Christ in the beauty of creation, in animals, in children, in women, in strangers on the street, in someone you love, in being loved, in caring for someone. I promise you it will happen if you do not look away. We cannot be the guards who are frozen with fear and afraid to look. Afraid to hear that the angel has been calling us the whole time. It doesn't matter how many times you've missed the call, you don't have to miss it again. The angel says, do not be afraid, look here. Resurrection brings new life where there was no life. Now, there are some miracles that are going to only happen when we're moving our feet. Only when we're up sharing. And sharing what we have extravagantly. Sharing with an old woman who can then help others. Sharing education with children so that a whole family is changed. Sharing a walk down the road with Christ. Immediately telling us not to be afraid. Annie Lamott, who is a writer, she quotes Fred Buechner, a famous theologian, where she says, God's grace tells us this. Here is your life. You might never have been, but you are, because the party wouldn't be complete without you. Here is your life. You might never have been, but you are. You are. Because the party isn't complete without you. Without us, others in the world. Without us, the party isn't complete. I would go one further. I'd say without us, the party might not even happen. The tomb is empty. Today is Resurrection Day. Today we are awake. We are moving towards Christ. Today we are bringing the party. Amen.